Most of you aren't subscribed. Make sure to subscribe, as it helps out the channel. Without further ado, deep in a forest, our MC dodges an incoming monster, seemingly communicating with something. As our MC dodges every single attack from the monster is suddenly shot by a projectile, killing it, as our MC leaves with his animal companions. As the monster dies, we see it leave behind a red crystal core, housing the monster's soul. Cutting to the Adventurers Guild, in the town of Faston, we overhear Gale, an adventurer, rambling on about a slime capable of breathing fire. But Gale is laughed at, as everyone knows that is not possible, reasoning that Gale must have been dreaming. Just then, our MC, Yuji, enters the guild, with his blue coat and pet slime, chatting to the receptionist. Seeing Yuji return so soon, the receptionist assumes that Yuji had given up on his assigned quest, but Yuji corrects her, asking his pet slime to spit out the flowers he's collected for the quest. Handing over hundreds of dry flowers, Yuji impresses everyone, as he finishes his quest so fast, even though he has the tamer class. Checking on the commotion, Aegis, the guildmaster, voices his surprise, confirming that Yuji is indeed no ordinary tamer. With no other choice, the guild master offers to purchase all of Yuji's flowers, stating that these flowers could help make potions for 2 years. As the guildmaster turns to leave, Yuji mentions how he had encountered a monster in the forest, but before Yuji can explain further, a knight suddenly bursts into the guild, informing everyone that hundreds of monsters have been spotted in the forest, supposedly moving out from their hiding places and moving towards the sun. As the guild's master demands to know where these creatures could be heading, Yuji telepathically communicates with one of his slimes, realizing that these creatures are all heading to their town. Forced to make a decision, the guildmaster announces that every adventurer should flee town while they can, as fighting the endless swarm of monsters is not ideal. Hearing this, the adventurers oppose the guildmaster's orders, questioning if they can even call themselves adventurers if they leave the women and children behind. As everyone begins to offer up ideas, Yuji eventually raises his hand, offering to stop the monster's advances. Seeing a kid say something so bold, the adventurers ask the Yuji to be quiet, but Yuji fetches an item from his slime, revealing it to be a dragon's tooth. Apparently, Yuji states that he is capable of mimicking a dragon's breath by consuming the tooth, but everyone thinks he's making things up. Just then, Gale steps up, inspecting Yuji's slime, only to realize something. Turning to Aegis, he asks to let Yuji try, as it's better than what they currently have. As the sun begins to set, all the adventurers are seen gathered outside, forming a barrier to stop the first wave of monsters, all whilst Yuji makes preparations for his dragon's breath. Descending the stairs of a building, Yuji talks to his pet wolf, checking up on how preparations are going. Seeing as they are still not prepared yet, Yuji gives his wolf a speed boost, allowing it to race through the forest, all whilst his pet slimes ride on the wolf's back. As Yuji scouts the battlefield from a vantage point, we witness Gale and other adventurers toss several projectiles at the monsters, attempting to kill the monsters with ice magic. But the monsters are pretty resilient, marching forward with no regards for their injuries. Back with Yuji, he lets his slime consume the dragon's tooth, declaring that he'll end this in 15 minutes, only to suddenly project several screens in front of him. Scanning through all his possible skills, he reasons that he needs a skill that will kill off all the monsters, but will keep the town safe. Just then, he's contacted by his dryad friend and his slimes, informing him that they have spotted a mysterious hooded man in the forest, deducing that he must be the reason these monsters are appearing out of nowhere, as he has a massive magic crystal. Wondering if the dryad could get close, Yuji asks that her and the slimes be careful as the crystal could detonate at any time, but the dryad already knows this, creating a portal for the slimes to enter through, only to appear right behind the hooded man. Able to see the slimes' positions, Yuji transfers a binding spell to his slimes, binding the man, only to transfer another spell, to dispel and destroy the crystal the man is carrying. Before Yuji's slimes can knock the man out, he suddenly bites a mysterious poison, killing himself, so as to not be captured and interrogated by Yuji. At the same time, Yuji's wolf finally exits the forest, having gathered all of Yuji's slime, having been scattered all across the forest. Seeing as Gale and his team are slowly being pushed back, Yuji asks that the wolf make a pit stop, asking that some of his slimes help out. Immediately responding, Several slimes rush to Gale, obtaining a fire spell from Yuji, only to destroy the approaching monsters. As Yuji rushes to think of a plan, he realizes that he can create a barrier around town, and only then cast his dragon's breath, to ensure that only the monsters will perish. Seeing Lily the receptionist spying on him, he asks her to tell the adventurers to return to town, as his preparations are done. As Lily rushes to report this to Aegis and the adventurers, Yuji also asks the Dryad and the slimes with her to hide underground, and for the remaining slimes to scatter themselves around the town's perimeter. With every adventurer rushing to safety, Gale spots a huge monster rushing to the open gate, prompting Gale to intercept the creature. Seeing this, a fellow knight helps out, but they are seemingly being overpowered. As they demand that Yuji start his fire spell, Yuji's wolf rushes to help out, pushing the monster aside long enough for it to save Gale and the knight. With everyone now behind cover, Yuji begins transferring a barrier spell to all his slimes around town, projecting a massive barrier around the town. Following up, Yuji unleashes his dragon breath, encasing the surrounding area outside of the barrier, with flames, incinerating everything. As the adventurers admire the beauty and destructive nature of Yuji's spell, Yuji finishes the cast, waiting for the smoke to clear. Shockingly, off in the distance, Yuji spots several monsters, still alive, having survived his dragon's breath. Suddenly, Yuji gets lightheaded, learning that he had used too many magic points, that his magic points are not only in the negative, but he had lost some health, as a result of pushing himself too far. Knowing that he has enough health for one more, Yuji readies his slime, erecting the town's barrier once more, but as Lily tries to stop him, Yuji simply casts his dragon breath once more, killing off the remaining monsters, but in exchange he finally blacks out. As Yuji wakes up, he's happy to see his slimes by his side, only to greet Lily, who has brought him some food. At the same time, Aegis and some adventurers have made their ways into the forest, finding the burnt body of the hooded figure, stumbling onto something that Aegis recognizes. As Yuji thanks Lily for the meal, he's happy to learn that the town's folks are celebrating their survival, all thankful that Yuji saved them. Turning to Yuji, Lily asks why Yuji would put his life on the line, to save a town he has no connection to, but as Lily sees Yuji's blank expression, she reasons that she should leave him alone for now. Now alone, Yuji begins thinking back on his previous life, miserable in his office job. As the night goes on, Lily returns with more food, but is shocked to see that Yuji has disappeared, having left town with his pets, moving on to his next destination. The next morning, Aegis is impressed that Yuji had left without wanting any fame or reward, but more importantly, Aegis tells Lily that the hooded man in the forest was carrying a device that most likely belonged to a dangerous cult that has been popping up everywhere. As we pan out, we see that Yuji is listening in on their conversation with his slime, but at the same time, he has made it to his next destination. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like and comment.